Hello, Aquatics. Let's see, you came over from Tofe. I guess he ended his stream. Have any questions or, want to see anything, then just let me know. And always make sure to leave a like. Maybe Ethan will come in and... A 350 gallon. I believe that would be good enough for 5 Oscars. I think that would be good. Yeah, that would definitely be a good size for 5 Oscars. You would need maybe some hideouts, but not very many considering Oscars don't really fight a lot, and they don't really claim territory. But if you have any other questions, let me know, because I'm very well equipped with information on Oscars. Where would I get very large hideouts? Well, there's always flower pots, but if you're going for, like, what I have, any, like, common place usually has them. My, like, local PetSmarts, local, like, Petco, they always sell them. And it'll have, like, kind of like how I have mine too, like, the big one on the left right there, and the one on the right over there. They'll be set up like that. And they're, like, $13, I think, for both of them, but I got mine online on Amazon. I got a whole entire pack. I got those 6, and then I got 2 on the sides. If you can see them, they're kind of smaller, for I think $30. So if you can find those on Amazon, then that's a good deal too. And do you know what kind of Oscars they are? Like if they're copper Oscars or albino red Oscars or tiger Oscars or anything like that? I'm gonna feed my fish as they are. 3 tigers and 2 albinos. Okay, well, that's good because Oscars are usually about the same size. They just look different. Put in a little bit of food. And, grab it off my tripod and bring my tripod over here. I have these, they're Tetra cichlid, floating cichlid pellets. My Oscars, I've had one for 4 months and and the 2 black ones for 2, and they actually hand feed for me, so I'll see if I can get a good view of that. They got, that was quick, dang. They just killed my finger. That's the kind of stuff that you like to see in an Oscar. See? Watch that. They kill the food out of your hand. So, I feed them cichlid pellets, along with, like, I feed them small cichlid, medium cichlids, and then I feed them floating sticks. But as for tank mates, if you're looking to get tank mates for them, not very aggressive cichlids, more of like I would not recommend getting convicts with them. They're way too aggressive. Blood parrots are always a good match for them. Gold severums are good with them. As from bottom feeders, I would say catfish that like my Pictus catfish, he's fast enough to get away from any kind of to get away from any of the cichlids, or my albino Cory catfish. You know, my jaguar cichlid, my other stuff like that. Not stuff that's extremely aggressive, but stuff that are aggressive enough to keep with them and do not require, like, they're not very territorial. And I guess since you clicked in here, you might want to see the Convict fry, which you see there are my two convicts. This is their first time. What about a sun catfish? I don't think I've ever heard of a sun catfish. I'll look it up after this and I'll leave some in the comments. But maybe that's just a weird name. Maybe it's a different name for something else. But my convicts, right here's the male, and back there's the female. This is their first time ever breeding. Somehow they've managed to hatch stuff. But if I can get you a small view glimpse of them, they're right there. There's about 40 of them. Eclipse catfish, okay. Well, I don't know how big an eclipse catfish gets, but anything that gets, I would say any kind of catfish, I would say it doesn't need to be super territorial, and it does not need to be anything under probably 2 inches at least. 10 inches, that's a big. For a 350 though, that might be good. That might be okay. I wouldn't get anything bigger than that. I think that's about the biggest that you could get away with. But I know that catfish is not probably extremely aggressive, so he won't attack the Oscars. The Oscars probably won't attack him. I'd probably say if you start out with 5, then hopefully you can get 2 and 2, like a male and a female and a male and a female maybe. It's very aggressive. I would not recommend getting anything that's very, very aggressive with Oscars, because Oscars are cichlids and can be aggressive, but do not like fighting, and are more of a softy type fish. Like, they do not like fighting unless they're fighting with each other or fish that are a lot smaller. Like my little convict that is half the size, they're all scared of. If they are paired, then I would probably, if you have 5, then you would try to figure out which ones are paired. And if they are not paired, then you would get rid of them, because they would be constantly fighting over the male and the female. See if you see that right there? See how my convict is chasing them all around? That's what I don't recommend getting with them. However, that usually doesn't happen. They're only like that because their fry is alive and they don't like anyone in the area. And so they're slowly moving their territory, because they started on the right side over there in that little thing, or right there, and that bottom one is where they started out their hideout and where they laid their eggs. They've slowly made their way to the middle of the tank, so there's no telling what they'll do. They'll probably move over to the left, if I would say. They have laid eggs, so you're saying the Oscars that you wanting to buy have laid eggs, and they're only in their small? Oh. Like, are they the size of mine, or like, how big are they? Because if they're that small having, then they should not be having eggs. They should not be laying eggs in the slightest. They're nowhere near sexual maturity unless they have been unless their growth has been extremely stunted. Because mine are about to hit sexual maturity. 8 inches. That is not a small Oscar. Um, 8 inches is not a small Oscar at all. I mean, mine are 4 to 5 inches. Not that big. And if there are 5 in a 55-gallon, as you were saying, then I would not get that. And if you were getting a 350, then I would recommend probably getting the pair of Oscars, getting a pair of Oscars, and then you would get the catfish if you wanted to, maybe. Or I would probably go with something else if I were you. Maybe an upside down catfish, as they're called, or something like that. And get a larger sized blood parrot, because blood parrots are the perfect tank mate for them. The others are small, okay. So, what I do know is that at about 8 to 9 inches, Oscars quit growing. They get about 8 to 9 inches within their first year, and then they quit, like, hitting their growth spurts, and they grow out to about a foot over the next, like, year. And so, most likely, they'll get to about, or, like, they'll grow about an inch a year, because Oscars do live about 15 years. And if you're looking at my tank, you can see how that little itty bitty Convict is pushing all the fish around. I was gonna say something. You do realize how big a 350, like a 350-gallon tank is, right? Like, that's a 9-foot long tank. It's a very big tank. Like, the one that I have is a 75, and yeah. Oh, a heated pool pond. Okay. That's completely different. I thought you were talking about a 350-gallon tank. I was like, that's huge. But a pool pond indoors, okay. I would recommend getting, first of all, I would recommend getting flower pots and not cichlid hideouts, because if you have cichlid hideouts, then they will hide under them and you will not be able to see your fish half the time. And I would say that you could get away with the catfish if it's a pond. And recommend having a lid, because if those fish get after each other, they are going to jump and might jump out. You'd be able to get away with probably 3 Oscars that are 8 inches, probably. And yeah, that would be about what you could have. But if you had a 350 pool pond, then I wouldn't even recommend getting Oscars. I would always recommend getting peacock cichlid, or maybe Midas cichlids. Those are always really cool to me. Or even if you want to, I think you could get away with koi. I think it's a 350, okay. Or like, even as I've seen many people do, they do like platies, mollies, and guppies. Like, do like a big live bear pond. Like, that always looks cool, because you never know what kind of variations you're gonna get. But I probably wouldn't recommend getting Oscars in that kind of a tank, because, or a pond, because as Oscars are, they're not like a fish that you would enjoy being like looking at them from a 350 or a 450. That's a decent sized tank, or pond. But if you look at Oscars on a pond, then they're most likely going to be looking down at them, or at a slightly at a slight angle, and Oscars do not look that good from the top. and like just not a good showing fish from the top. So I would recommend like Mighty Cichlids, how they got their oranges and they have like a big hump, and they have stuff like that just like point them out. And Oscars, I would, and then like your peacock cichlids, or not peacock cichlids, but your peacock bass, that would be a good one because they look good and they'll actually like eat out of your hand, stuff like that. Koi would be a good idea. I would love to do koi in a 450-gallon pond. One of my favorite fish is actually koi. What about a pacu? Pacu, albino or regular? Or albino and regular about the same, but how many? Regular, and then how many? Like one, two. I would say the most you could get away with was two. Two of them small. Well, they of course get huge, as you probably know. And you could hold two of them in there for a while. But eventually, you would either have to don't put it down to one, or you would have to get a bigger pond. But I think two of them small, probably anything smaller than 8 inches is good for a 350. Two of them, about, as long as they're under a foot, probably I'd say they're fine. You might go live. I'm probably about to end my stream because it's just me and you, but if there's like any other questions that you have quickly or anything else, then I'll just go ahead and I can end the stream and you can go live, because I'd like to see if you like your tanks or anything else like that. And if you're doing a pacu, then probably would do a bare bottom like pond. Wouldn't do anything but a bare bottom pond. And then well, I guess he left. But you would need to have lots of different kinds of food because they can be picky, but they do eat large amounts. And I would say with what you can keep with them, probably you could keep peacock bass with them. You can keep a larger peacock bass, obviously, and you could probably keep some medium-sized red tail catfish. But other than that, I don't know what I would put with them. Maybe a night fish, but other than that, I wouldn't put anything else. Anyways, I'm going to see if I can get one better shot of me hand feeding this fish. And then I'm going to, or just hand feeding one of them in general, whichever one wants to come up to the tank. I'm going to see if I can get a good shot of it. So if you can see my hand, if you already see him, he's about to jump out of this water for that. Holy crap, he just ran. Okay, here we go. And that shows you something right there. That little itty bitty fish will come over here and he will try to bite my hand off. See if I can get one more. Oh, there's several more at that time. That's kind of funny. Oh, the convict got it. But, oh, I can get you a better view of these little babies right there. There's the fry. And then I'm going to skip around here, because I know no one else really looks at this tank. But this is my 10-gallon. It has guppies, shrimp, and one killifish. And, you know, live plants, moss ball, that, I don't know what that is. Probably, I think that's an Anubias. There's another live plant, and then I have one more in the back. But other than that, that's it. But anyways, I'm just gonna end this